is John Jonker, and I was a part of Camp Arnis. We started in 2011, and we left on some random date in 2019 after COVID sort of changed the landscape of camp. We moved away. How I got involved with camp is kind of a twofold story. Our church, the church at Pine Ridge, was always involved with Camp Arnis. Many people are tied to that. So I'd heard about it a lot on Sunday mornings and at men's events and that. But then it definitely had a really strong tug at my heart. I joke all the time that what brought me to camp was my 2008 Dodge Caliber. It was red, it was nice, but the reality it was God dragging me here a little bit, kicking and screaming at the time. I would have been described as that guy who the Bible talks about the love of money being that root of evil, and I honestly thought that I could make enough money to make my family happy, and the reality of it was the job that I was in, it was tearing my family apart. And I can picture exactly the day being at church after being gone for a number of weeks at work, being out of town, and Sunday morning waking up all groggy and going to church, and my daughter asking for the world, and I just said, I just want to be home with you because I'm only here for a couple days. And she turned her back to me to talk to my wife, who was standing right beside me, and said, I can't wait for Dad to leave so things get back to normal. And it was a real kick in the head to me. And I knew immediately I had to make some changes. So I did that thing you're not supposed to do. I bartered with God. I asked for a whole whack of fleeces, like, if you really want me at Camp Arnis. We actually volunteered in the summer for a couple weeks to kind of get a feel for it. And then we just made the jump. We got rid of everything in town and rented out our house, and we moved to Camp Arnis in the fall. And there was no looking back. From the time that we walked onto the property, we drove onto the property, there was just an immediate, I felt that God really wanted us here and that this was a fit for us. And so many of the things that fell into place during that time it was so very clear that this is where God wanted us. And so we did it. We jumped in both feet, jumped into a maintenance role, eventually into an operations director role. Was really, really fortunate at our time. We got to work under Will Ware and Shauna Ware. They were directors at the camp at the time, and then met guys, people along the way, like Mysterious Max. Everyone will remember him. That guy is a legend. To be able to just work under someone whose faith was so strong and watch it grow and grow with him, and then a bunch of other people along the way, Bryn Shore, Audrey. It was something that just moved us forward really, really quickly in our faith. Camp took every talent that we had and magnified it, and then gave us 10 more. And so it was just a fantastic transition from a real secular life into a season of ministry here at Camp Arnis. Oh my gosh, to narrow it down to one memory from camp after that many years, that's practically impossible. I remember one of our maintenance guys was particularly good at inventing things, and we made a couple cannons where we could shoot golf balls from the maintenance shed into the lake. I remember some of the building projects that we did, taking things to the next level. Definitely cleaning up areas of camp. There's always, when I left here, there was 93 different physical buildings at camp, so there was always something to do and to make. I always love the smell of cedar. It always just kind of brings me back to fixing the cabins. But if I had to narrow it down to one thing that kind of defined my time at camp that I often talk about and I often go back to, it would be the crew program in the summer. There was something about working with these campers that came from such a wide variety of backgrounds. And just a little history about us. We're foster parents. We have one biological child, one foster and one adopted. And crew had all of these kids coming from usually rougher backgrounds. And so having this voice that says, I understand you from the other side of foster care. I understand you from the other side of adoption. I understand you just as a dad, really helped to connect with these kids. And just seeing the change in that 2-week period in each of them. I've ran across a couple of them as early as just 2 weeks ago. There's a girl that did it, that was part of crew that's now a very big part of a daycare downtown Winnipeg. And just seeing her thrive there, whereas the first time I met her years ago, that wouldn't have been my guess for the trajectory that she was on. I really loved taking a tool and putting it into somebody else's hand and saying, let's learn how to do this. You're going to do this. You don't need to watch me do this. I know how to use a saw. I know how to use a hammer. I want to teach you. And so it was one of those things. I know the parable of the talents that God talks about is not actual physical talents, where he gave one guy 5 and one guy 3 and one guy 1. But if you really looked at it as like, I came to camp with 3 talents, and then I invested them at camp. God refined every single one of them, and then he added to them. And then I had to learn how to manage people. I was terrible at it. I was a terrible manager of people, and I had to learn how to be more organized, which I still struggle with, but he refined those things along the way. And so and then being able to share that with someone and watch their faith grow. I have so many great memories of that. And then I can't even tell you how many people we met through camp that are still such great friends. The great Edna Clausen. You guys all, if you've been a part of camp in the last 25 years, you know her. And I still get to talk to her all. It's such a privilege to get to see her and talk to her and still talk about these stories and still check in with people whose faith grew while they were here. And so, there's so many memories that, I couldn't even put them all into one box. So, how has Camp Arnis helped me grow my faith? That's a fantastic question that involves a lot of other people. I know Max really pushed me to think more about how God played a role in our lives, and whether he did that intentionally or not. That was a big one. There was other people along the way too, but when I came to camp, I really looked for a fleece to make sure that that's what God wanted me to do. I would say, well, God, if you really wanted me to come to camp, you'll do this and this and this thing, instead of using every action and thing that I have, every talent that I do, instead of using that for God's glory. And so I went from asking God's permission to doing it to gain glory for God. And it definitely made me more bold as a Christian too. Talking about your faith every day and being in a place where creation is so evident. There were so many school groups that came through. Ironically, one of the teachers that I connected with the most now actually sits behind me at the Bomber games, and we still talk to this day about their time at camp, and they still come. And it's always another opportunity to plug, to say like, hey, we're still going to church and we still meet every Sunday, so we still have room there. If you'd like to come, we've got a spot for you. I'll save you a chair. And so it's definitely made my faith more the first thing that I talk about instead of the last thing I talk about. Coming from a secular job before, you never knew if anybody you worked with went to church. Or believed in God. It was kind of one of those things that they didn't talk about. Now going back into the secular world, having left camp, it is one of the first things that people ask me, how was your weekend? And I can say, we had a great time at church, or I can't come out Thursday, our men's group is meeting, or Friday's our Bible study group. And so it's helped me be way more bold and way more on fire for God, and hopefully grow his kingdom that way. And through that, it's just made, because you're more upfront and more authentic that way, I get some really amazing questions about faith that I would have never thought that I'd get. And so it makes me have to go back to my Bible and crack it and look and be like, okay, well, what does God say about this? Being part of a business now, what does God say about being a business owner? Like, how does that play out? So now I'm actively more doing that. And so, so that's kind of it hasn't stopped. It's still a stepping stone that I'm still leaping off of as I move forward, moving forward here. Oh, why should you get involved at camp? I think the question is, why shouldn't you? I want to make a difference. You want to make a difference. We all talk about a legacy that we're leaving behind. We all talk about our purpose. What are the things that matter? I mean, every time you flip through a reel that's not something funny, it's something direct, and it's like, what difference are you making? Camp offers an opportunity to make a continual, amazing, life-changing difference for campers, for other staff members, for your family. It is a place where every talent that God's given you can be refined, can be put on display, could be developed. It's a place where so many people genuinely care for you. I don't have too many people pulling me aside saying, hey John, looks like you're having a tough day today. Why don't we pray together? Why don't you lean on me a little bit? I'm gonna check in with you later, see how you're doing. I don't have that where I am right now. I had that when I was at camp, where people would be like, I know what's going on. I know yesterday was tough, and I know today is tough, and I'm pretty sure tomorrow is gonna be tough, so let's walk this road together. And so you get a chance to do that. You get to see God's creation in 4 amazing, distinct seasons. The snow could be chest high. The leaves in the fall can be painted with 1,000 different colors. Spring coming to life, and summer, the warmth, the lake, the chance to openly share the gospel with all the campers. I can't think of one reason why you would not want to partner with camp and be a part of that in whatever way that looks like, whether that's being here as a staff person, coming down the driveway and having coffee, praying for them, donating to them, just encouraging this work to keep going. I have a retirement plan that's actually just a relocation plan that hopefully brings me back here in the future. And so I encourage you to do the same, to be a part of that. I think camp also offers an opportunity to become authentic and to just, when you work alongside someone and then you live alongside them, it's one thing to go to work and say this, it's one thing to go to church and say this, but to watch it live out and play out is a way to become a way more authentic person. And I think it's missing. And I think especially as guys, as husbands, as men, I think we need to be more that way and quit trying to fit into these side roles of what the world kind of wants us to do. I think that authenticity is a gift that we give each other, we give other men, and then to our wives and our families and our coworkers. And so, I just to be a part of a family here that works together and then hangs out together is a gift, and I wish more people could experience that. We're trying to develop it in a group of people that we're now doing a Bible study with that have that same authenticity, even though we don't work together as much. But it's one of the things that camp offered by being on site for so many years. And so I would say that's another part of camp that's just fantastic and that you need to be a part of to experience. It's a great way to grow. It's a great way to learn.